Welcome back to the Keiser Report. Time now to go to New Zealand and talk with the man who needs no introduction, Kim Dotcom. Kim, welcome to the Keiser Report.
Hello, Max. Nice to meet you.
Are you getting a massage there? It looks like you're in an interesting position, Kim.
I'm in my work bed, so this is where I check my emails and stuff.
Okay, fair enough. All right, now, Kim Dotcom, you rang in the new year with a tweet that said, let's encrypt the internet in 2014. What have you got cooking?
Well, Mega is all about secure communications and secure file transfers because, as we all know, the NSA and their Five Eyes partners are spying on us everywhere. So Mega allows people to use encryption without having to know much about encryption. It's all happening in the browser. You can securely upload your files into the cloud. You can securely communicate. We are working on a Skype-type application that will be working within the browser, fully encrypted point-to-point, so that you can keep your communications private.
All right. Now, you mentioned, we'll talk about more MegaNet in a second here, but you mentioned the NSA. And, of course, your case overlaps this incredible reveal by Edward Snowden about what the NSA has been up to, about spying on people, invading their privacy. And going back to your case, where there was a raid staged on your estate in New Zealand that was pretty much put together, you know, if you connect the dots, we can see the hand of the MPAA, the Motion Picture Association of America, Chris Dodd, who was also instrumental in, according to Aaron Swartz's father at the funeral of Aaron Swartz, point the finger at the U.S. government and Chris Dodd. So my question is, my point is that your new initiative here, MegaNet, seems to be responding to a market need that became suddenly visible and viable with these Edward Snowden NSA reveals. Is that the way you planned it, or are you just an excellent businessman, or what's going on there?
Well, first of all, Dot, he is, of course, the person behind the level of aggression in my case. A former senator of 30 years, best friend of Joe Biden, who got the White House to put their full weight behind that action against me and Mega Upload. So we had a raid here with 2 helicopters, 72 armed anti-terrorist cops and attack dogs and things like that. Totally outrageous for a copyright case. But on top of this, they also used the NSA PRISM system and Spy Cloud to spy on me. And when you hear the US government apologizing every day about how this is only being used to fight terrorism, it's really quite a joke because they have used it in a copyright case for Hollywood.
It seems like you're doing a lot of things and talking about a lot of things now that we first got wind of from the EFF, John Perry Barlow, and Professor Lawrence Lessig, who of course worked with Aaron Swartz. Just out of curiosity, have you been, since your business now is so much been involved now with the copyright freedom movement and the movement to no longer extend copyright and to repeal copyright law, have you been in touch with the EFF? Have you been in touch with Professor Lawrence Lessig at all? Just quickly, I'm just curious if you guys have had any contact at all.
Well, the EFF is part in our case. They're actually representing a Mega Upload user who wants to have his data back, and there are millions others waiting to have their data back, and they're waiting for 2 years already. So the EFF is in our court case. Lawrence, is of course one of the key figures in the intellectual scene around internet freedom. So he's in touch with us and, is wishing us good luck. I'm not against copyright, though. I'm against copyright extremism. I think people who create something, they have a right to make money, but it shouldn't override innovation. It shouldn't override things that make society function better. And what Hollywood is trying to do is basically turn the internet into a totally censored and controlled network to their liking. And that is what I'm fighting against.
Right. To use Professor Lawrence Lessig's term, what he's fighting against is what he calls perpetual copyright. In other words, there should be a point when when intellectual property returns to the public domain from where it comes, and there needs to be some protection for that to protect the public domain. Now let's talk about how the Snowden revelations and have blasted open the doors to hundreds of billions of dollars worth of deals have gone bust because corporations around the world now realize that American technology is buggy and diseased with all this spying technology. So it's as if the American technology sector is shooting itself in the head. You're in New Zealand. You have a view on Asia, where a lot of the backlash against this is. Can you fill us in? What do you see from your vantage point? Is this true, where American corporations are now losing out billions of dollars because of the overreach by the NSA? Kim?
That is a really dangerous development for the U.S. economy, because everyone is waking up to all these American tech products being backdoored and web services being Trojanized. And that is something that is going to lead to more and more countries, governments, and large corporations moving away from services that they have to deem untrustworthy. And I think, the effect that this is going to have over the next decade on the U.S. economy is going to be significant. But there's also a huge opportunity for other countries, especially smaller countries, to not enter into the TPP, but do their own thing and establish laws that are pro-innovation, pro-technology, that protect the internet, that give operators safe harbors. So there's a huge opportunity here to cut off a massive slice of the internet economy from the U.S. government.
Right, you mentioned the TPP. This is the latest trade deal. Can you talk a little bit about that for viewers who might not be familiar with it?
The TPP is basically a world domination treaty for American corporations. They want to control patents, they want to control copyright, they want to control medicine around the globe. And it's funny that the MPAA is actually drafting the paragraphs inside the TPP that have to do with copyright. And it's basically a giant wish list of US corporations, what they want to have in the global economy. And it's a very scary a treaty that I hope is never going to come to fruition.
Let's talk a little bit about MegaNet, which is something you're working on now. So how is it different than what's in use today, and what can we expect from MegaNet? Is it coming? Is it in the pipeline? Is it coming soon? Talk a little bit about MegaNet.
So MegaNet is a decentralized network that is not IP-based. So it allows you to transfer data on basically on a separate internet. It's a new internet. It's something that is outside the control of anyone who wants to control the internet. And I've been thinking about this for 2 years since the raid happened, and it's coming together. So it's going to be a very nice way for people to use a new infrastructure that doesn't come with all these hassles and privacy intrusions that we have today. The entire network will be fully encrypted, and it's going to change the world.
All right, I'm sure it will. So far, you've been very instrumental in bringing about all kinds of paradigm-shifting technologies. Is very exciting. And another development that came around during your period of becoming famous around the world, as well as Edward Snowden, we also have at the same time the breakout of cryptocurrencies. This is another interesting development in the field of encryption. I know you're very involved in encryption, and here you have Bitcoin, which is a cryptocurrency. It's an encrypted currency. We've exchanged emails a little bit about this in the past, and I want to know what your current thinking is on cryptocurrencies, and is there room for that in your plans going forward, Kim Dotcom?
Well, it's a very exciting development. It might lead to a world currency. It might lead to something that unifies the global transaction system. So, it's still in its early stages, in its infancy, and I think over the next decade, it's going to grow to become one of the most important ways to pay for things and transfer assets. Right.
So that's a bit evasive. I was hoping you might get a little bit, deeper into this in terms of on the business side of what you're doing. Do you see a role for cryptocurrencies on the business side of the Kim Dotcom ventures going forward? Because it seems to play into a theme, which is encryption. And can you give us any more thoughts on this, or are you playing it close to the vest for competitive reasons?
I'm playing it close to the chest. I have some interesting things going in that space. At Mega, we accepted Bitcoin on day one of the launch. So, I think that sent a clear message what my position is in regards to this type of currency.
Okay, now there is a cryptocurrency in New Zealand that goes by the name of MegaCoin. So let the people know today, definitively, do you have anything to do with MegaCoin?
Nothing at all.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk a little bit about the copyright again and file sharing, and the whole business model has been completely disrupted by developments in technology. So uploads to torrent sites were up 50% in 2013. So despite all the efforts by the MPAA, people are still going to torrent sites, and it's still transforming the industry. Are they fighting a losing battle, Chris Dodd and the MPAA, ultimately? And what are your thoughts on this?
Well, Chris Dodd is basically putting his hand into a giant river and is trying to stop it with his hand. So that's never going to happen, and it's never going to work. They are spending a lot of energy and time and money on fighting something that they can't defeat. The only way they can defeat it is by adopting to the new reality, by changing their business model to something that works and functions better with the internet. Worldwide release of content on the same day, fair pricing, the content needs to work on any device. There are so many things that Hollywood could do to improve their business model to be more compatible with the internet, but they haven't really woken up to that yet.
Right. They were very slow to embrace the videotape when it came along. Remember, they fought that tooth and nail. Eventually, it expanded their business dramatically. They weren't keen necessarily on DVDs when they came along. They're not keen on new technologies, even though in the end, they tend to expand what these companies do and their revenues.
Max, do you want to know why?
Please.
It's this fundraising model that Hollywood has. They basically have a network of 1,000 license partners around the world. So whenever they shoot a new movie, they send the script around to all these licensing partners around the world and pitch that movie to them, tell them who's the director and who are the actors. And then they are raising the majority of the money that it costs to produce the movie from foreign licensing partners. So their risk to invest into movies is very minimal, and it's basically a license to print money. But the trade-off is that these foreign license holders then own the license, and of course you can't then anymore say, well, we are doing a global release of this content, because the license holders have their own interests. They want to put it out in their market when they want to have a movie premiere, they want to have the rights for that market and control it. And that's why even if Hollywood wanted today create a website we can just go and find any movie and stream it from any country, they couldn't do it because they have created a model that made that impossible.
Right. The pre-sales model is to mitigate their risk down to zero, and the Hollywood's become overrun by hedge fund managers who are in bed with bankers, and they use the same kind of tricks in the banking over to the intellectual property. Anyway, Kim, Dotcom, we're out of time, but thanks so much for being on the Keiser Report.
Very nice to be here. Thank you, Max, for having me.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacy Herbert. I'd like to thank our guest, Kim, Dotcom. If you'd like to get in touch, tweet us at Keiser Report. Until next time, bye, y'all.